There's a truth many people only realize after they've tried everything, and their belly still won't flatten. There is a type of fat that doesn't care how many crunches you do, and doesn't care that you ate less for a few days. It sits deeper than what you see in the mirror. And if you've ever felt like I'm doing so many things right, but my body just won't cooperate, there's a good chance this is what you're dealing with. Most people think belly fat is an aesthetic issue, but from a biological perspective, it's actually a survival decision. When the body receives too many stress signals, unstable energy intake, or sugar and fat arriving in a way the brain doesn't like, it chooses the safest option, storing energy close to the most vital organs, quietly, painlessly, just slowly building up. That's why so many people have slim arms and legs, but their belly just stays. What's interesting is that this type of fat isn't as stubborn as you think. In reality, it's often the fastest to respond when the biological environment changes in the right way. Not through extreme fasting, not through training to exhaustion, but through very specific signals the body understands as, we're safer now. In nutrition science, one pattern shows up again and again. Two people can eat the same amount of energy, yet their bodies store it very differently. It's not about willpower, it's about where that energy comes from. Some fats push the body to store energy deeper, while others help it distribute and use energy more efficiently. This explains why some people see their waist change just by adjusting a few everyday choices, while others tighten harder and feel more stuck. Then there's sugar. Not all sugar is bad, but how sugar is processed in the body is what really matters. There's a form of sugar that forces the liver to work alone, and when the liver is overloaded, it can't burn it anymore. It can only store it. Where it stores it, you can probably guess. What many people don't realize is that you don't have to live in deprivation to break this cycle. You just need to replace, not eliminate. Protein is a very practical example, not because it's magical, but because it sends a completely different signal to the brain and hormones. When protein intake goes up, cravings naturally go down. No forcing, no fighting. And when intake drops unconsciously, the body starts pulling energy from the most dangerous storage first. This is biology, not motivation. When it comes to movement, if you've ever felt frustrated that training your abs didn't change your belly, you weren't wrong. The body doesn't burn fat based on where you train, but based on hormonal signals. And there's a certain intensity threshold that strongly increases fat mobilizing hormones, especially for deep fat. No marathon required. No self-punishment, just short periods that are clear enough for the body to understand energy needs to be released. The most important thing I want you to take away isn't a specific meal plan or workout. It's a different way of looking at your body. Your body has never been working against you. It's simply doing exactly what it was programmed to do in an unstable environment. When you change the signal, it changes the response. Simple, but not easy if you don't understand why. If you're stuck in a place where your belly isn't responding despite all your effort, leave a comment. Not to complain, but to share where you feel stuck. Food, stress, or movement. Real stories like that are what help others realize they're not alone, and that this problem isn't because they're weak, but because no one ever explained it to them properly. This video isn't here to make you believe immediately. It's here to help you start looking at your body with less judgment and more understanding. And from there, real change finally has a chance to happen. There's something research often mentions quietly, but in real life, it creates a massive difference. The body doesn't respond to effort, it responds to consistency. Many people do everything right for 3 days, then fall back into old patterns because nothing seems to change. But biology doesn't run on our emotional timelines. It runs on repeated signals. And deep belly fat is one of the things that requires the clearest, most consistent signals of all. In the lab, this can be measured very coldly. Reduce excess energy just slightly, and the fat stored deep inside the abdomen begins to mobilize even when body weight barely moves. This is why some people feel their belly lighter, their pants looser, while the scale stays exactly the same. And it's also why so many people quit too early, thinking, This just doesn't work for me. Another factor that's rarely talked about is physiological stress. Not emotional stress like sadness or worry, but stress from lifestyle rhythm. Irregular sleep, eating while the brain is still tense, pushing the body too hard, and then staying completely inactive all day. To the body, these are all read as danger signals. When danger becomes chronic, the top priority is storage. Not storage under the skin for appearance, but storage close to vital organs for quick access. Once you understand this, it becomes clear why some people become more rigid the more they try to be disciplined. In real life, I've met many people who changed just one time window in their day. Eating a bit earlier, moving lightly after dinner, sleeping at more regular hours. None of them called it a diet. But after a few weeks, their waist began to respond. Not fast, but very steadily. Science calls this circadian alignment. The body understands it more simply. Things are becoming less chaotic. And there's a fascinating paradox. You don't need to burn fat all day to lose fat. What matters more is creating windows where the body is allowed to switch into using stored energy. When you eat constantly, snack constantly, sip sweet drinks throughout the day, the body never gets that window. But with just a few clear gaps, deep fat is prioritized first because it's the most accessible. If you're listening to this and realizing you've tried many things without ever truly understanding why your body reacts the way it does, you're not behind. You're just learning a little later, and the good news is that biology doesn't hold grudges. It only needs to be spoken to in a language it understands. Share in the comments one small change you feel you could maintain for the next 30 days. No matter how small, not as a promise to anyone else, but as a way to see yourself beginning to send a new signal to your body. Small signals, repeated long enough, are what truly change what's happening deep inside. If we're being completely honest, improvement doesn't come from doing more. It comes from making things clearer. Many people fail not because they lack effort, but because their body doesn't understand what they're trying to do. The signals being sent are too noisy. One day eating very little, the next day compensating. One day training extremely hard, the next sitting all day. One night sleeping early, the next staying up past midnight. To biology, that isn't a plan, it's chaos. The first step is stabilizing your rhythm before optimizing anything else. Eat at roughly the same times each day, even if it's not perfect yet. The body doesn't need a perfect meal. It needs to know when energy is coming. When eating rhythms stabilize, hunger and satiety hormones begin to function more smoothly, and random cravings gradually fade without you having to fight them. The second step is reducing hidden energy sources. In real life, very few people overeat at main meals, but they take in a lot through drinks, condiments, sauces, coffee additions, and small snacks. These don't make you feel full, but they constantly tell the body that energy is arriving, interrupting fat mobilization. Simply becoming aware of these small energy inputs and making them clearer creates a very important biological window. Next is changing the role of movement. Instead of using exercise as a punishment for eating, use it as a biological signal. A few sessions that raise your heart rate, not long, but intentional, tell the body that energy needs to be used, not stored. On other days, lighter movement, more walking, and staying gently active help lower baseline stress, the quiet force that pushes fat deeper inside. One very practical point that's often overlooked is recovery. Not sleeping enough, sleeping at irregular times, or sleeping in a stressed state keeps defensive hormones elevated. In that state, deep fat loss barely happens, even if your diet and workouts are by the book. Simply stabilizing sleep and improving sleep quality has led many people to see changes in their waist without doing anything else. Finally, remember that the body isn't convinced by logic, but by repeated experience. Don't try to change everything at once. Choose one or two signals you can maintain for a few weeks. Meal timing, sleep timing, or a consistent form of movement. When the body receives enough signals of safety, it will do the hardest part on its own. letting go of what is no longer necessary for survival. If you want, leave a comment about which signal you feel is most lacking for you right now. There's no right or wrong here, only whether the starting point fits you or not. And from that point, real change deep inside finally has a chance to happen. Before this video comes to an end, I want you to hold on to one very small but very real thing. Not a number, not a meal plan, not a new workout to try next Monday, but a different way of looking at your own body. Your body has never intentionally tried to disappoint you. It has simply been responding very faithfully to the signals you send it every day. When your life moves too fast, it learns to store. When your routine becomes unstable, it chooses defense. When you constantly force change under stress, it holds on to energy as a survival instinct. Deep belly fat, in many cases, is not a personal failure, but the trace of a body that has had to stay on guard for too long. The moment things begin to change isn't when you try harder, but when you stop fighting your body. When you send clear, repeated, sufficiently safe signals, more stable eating, more rhythmic movement, real rest, the body will do the rest on its own. Quietly, slowly, but truthfully. If something in this video made you nod, or made you realize, maybe I'm not broken the way I thought I was, leave a comment. You don't need to tell a perfect story, just one line about how you feel in your body right now. Those stories don't just help you, they help many others realize they're not alone on this path. This channel isn't here to promise fast change. It's here to explain slow, sustainable change. And if you want to keep understanding your body with less judgment, more science, and closer to real life, stay with us. We'll keep going, one small signal at a time.